Today we're continuing the NativeScript chat series where I sit down with a guy who's been involved with NativeScript community since 2016, but I just met him for the first time in November 2019 in Boston at a conference. So it was good to finally meet Tyler, who's also a writer on NativeScripting. You'll find some of his pretty cool articles on NativeScripting.com. He's been doing a lot of work with NativeScript and how NativeScript can be built with a CI/CD process in Azure, Microsoft Azure. So if you're into that, definitely check out Tyler's articles. And of course, this is NativeScript Chat, where I get to introduce you to some folks behind the scenes, folks that are community members, where you can put a face to a name. So without further ado, here's my chat with Tyler Blake. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Alex again, and today I have another special guest. His name is Tyler, and you might be familiar with him if you've been to any of the NativeScript conferences. He is a regular and he's a conference speaker. He's also an author on NativeScripting.com. You might have seen some of his recent articles on there on Azure pipelines and how to integrate that into your NativeScript workflow. So Tyler is a full stack developer and he's been working with NativeScript quite a bit in the last few years. Full stack means he does everything. He's doing the whole thing, not just part of the stack, the full stack. Tyler, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. What's up?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me. Doing good.
I know you've been doing NativeScript for a little while, and I found proof of this. In a recent video that I was just browsing on the internets, and I'm going to send you a photo. Here's the photo from 2016. I just sent it to you. Check this out. And I had no idea that we might have actually been to the same conferences back in the day. Look at that. That's you from 2016, man. You're wearing a NativeScript shirt and everything, hanging out with the old crew.
That's funny.
So you're I guess an old timer when it comes to NativeScript.
Yeah, I guess to leeway into that, starting out of college, I worked at a .NET shop. Worked there for a few years, mainly just doing .NET MVC full stack there. And then you can see there, I actually worked with Mike and Nick Branstein. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember the year. I guess, yeah, it was 2015, 2016. Ed Charbonneau actually came down and did a Summer of NativeScript meeting with us, and that's where we got all the shirts, and we hung out one night and did some NativeScript stuff. And then Nick and Mike were already working on it. They did the NativeScript book, so they kind of talked about NativeScript often. And then I left that company in 2018, looked for an Angular job, did an interview with them, and they talked about some small mobile apps they were wanting to work on. And so I was like, hey, have you heard of NativeScript? If we're already talking Angular, then so kind of talked to them a little bit about NativeScript and how it could help them and work with the stack. And then they hired me, and I've been doing NativeScript professionally for them for a little over 2 years now.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. And your preferred method of working with NativeScript now is with Angular, right?
Yes.
Did you start out with Core, or did you jump right into the Angular?
I went straight into Angular. So preferred flavor is Angular, but probably because that's all I've really dealt with. I did play around a little bit with the Vue. I think I just initially just not a huge fan of Vue's kind of structure of files and how things are laid out. So I just kind of stuck with Angular.
Mm-hmm. They have similar concepts, but the way it looks is quite different.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is that they both work on top of NativeScript.
Yeah. I think that's an awesome thing.
Yeah. So you're a .NET background person, right? Yeah, same here. I've been working with .NET for a long time. So, of course, C#, TypeScript, that comes in pretty handy when learning when dealing with NativeScript.
Yes. TypeScript for sure. Definitely helps. Just, I would say just initially, even if you're on your own working with that, having if you watch any of the videos on NativeScripting, adding the platform declarations. As me, zero mobile background when I started NativeScript, so digging into those native APIs, I had no clue. The JavaScript Angular side, I was okay on, but dealing with UI buttons and stuff like that, native library stuff, super difficult for me. So pulling in those platform declarations and then having the IntelliSense from TypeScript to help me out with that really, really made the working with NativeScript smooth.
Yeah, and Tyler's talking about the video here on YouTube as well about NativeScript platform declarations. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. So Tyler, You must have a favorite plugin that you work with in NativeScript. What's that plugin if you have one?
Any of them that work really well straight out of the box that I don't have to touch.
Nice.
Those always get a thumbs up from me. But the one I probably use the most professionally is probably the Firebase. I think it's like Firebase plugin NativeScript. It's kind of weird, but that one I use like almost every professional project we do. We use that one for something. I mean, there's so much in that there's always something in there to use. So we use that one heavily.
Yeah, Eddie created that plugin. Hopefully he'll be on the show pretty soon as well, and he can talk more about that. And he's got a ton of other plugins. And the Firebase one is really cool because it doesn't only do what you think it does. It does a lot of cool things like authentication, authorization, and Firestore, notifications, all kinds of things. Really cool plugin. So check that plugin out. I haven't covered it here on YouTube yet, but hopefully soon I will. So what about other tools related to the NativeScript ecosystem? Do you like any other ones?
I'll browse the NativeScript marketplace. I'll look at stuff on there. The samples I'll look at a lot because I know like William, he's a contributor on NativeScripting. He has a lot of samples up there. He's worked on some really cool animation stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of piggyback off, or if I'm really just curious about the capability or process of how I would build something, I'll look there and see if there's any samples on the NativeScripting marketplace to see what I can do there.
Yeah, Marketplace is a really cool place to check out code examples, sample applications, plugins. It has a really nice interface. So yeah, check that out. I think I talked about it here before as well. So when you're developing, do you use Android? Do you use iOS? Do you use hardware devices or software only simulators? How do you do it?
A little bit of everything. So my primary development device is a 2018 MacBook Pro. So required, right, obviously for iOS simulators and stuff. So I probably show iOS a little bit more love, or a lot more, depending on how you look at it. Initially, I'll work in the iOS simulator, just because a lot of times, sometimes early on, it's just kind of seeing, doing some feasibility tests, seeing if something's possible, how it can be done. So usually I'll do my initial work on just the iOS simulator, and then move on to running as well in the Android simulator. And then not day to day. Day to day, I usually work out of a simulator, but maybe weekly or bi-weekly, run some tests through hardware, physical Android devices. We have a bunch of Android test devices and iOS test devices at the office. So I'll run through, going through a bunch of those.
Yeah, exactly the same exact procedure that I follow. I like to start with the iOS simulator and then go to the Android emulator and then test on devices periodically just to make sure everything is still working and I didn't break anything.
Yep.
All right. So when you're learning new stuff, like constantly learning new technologies, do you like to read about them? Do you like to watch videos on YouTube or take video courses? How do you like to learn new tech?
A little bit of all of them. It just, I guess, kind of depends on the day and the mood I'm in. Sometimes I like reading a nice blog post and just going through there. Sometimes I might prefer text just for kind of like a high level overview of what something can do. And then we start digging down into it. Video is nice. I don't enroll in courses much anymore, right? There's a caveat here. If we're talking any stack of tech, Treehouse is something that's what I started on, and I think that's a really good resource. I'm not sure if it's for everybody, but actually my city's free public library gives you free access to Treehouse.
Oh, cool.
So I had free access to Treehouse. I also volunteered doing some mentoring at a thing called Code Louisville. So it's basically a free software training program. I mentored there and did some .NET courses and some front-end courses for them. And when you do that, you get free access because their courses, it's basically they follow Treehouse. Yeah. And then every week, your group meets with your mentor and they can help. And then you build a project along the way. And so I had access through that. So a lot of that. If we're talking NativeScript specific, then obviously we're talking NativeScripting.com is the training course, I would say, for video and even, and this is also a big kudos to that, is the videos are great and a nice learning resource, but I also really like that the blog posts that come in from other contributors, those are free to view. You don't have to have subscription to view those, which I think is really cool, because we want more people to come into the NativeScript community, and so the more free resources we can get out there, for sure. But the course definitely worth the money, and there's always a sale going on, so you can always get a good price on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great place for all your NativeScript knowledge. Besides the NativeScriptorg site and the documentation, you can go through there. But what's good about the NativeScripting community is that the folks like Tyler and other folks that are authors on there, they have real world experience. They come in and share a bit of knowledge that's very specific to doing a certain task, like the Azure pipelines deployment series that Tyler is doing on there, which is really cool. And a bunch of other animation related stuff that William does. Really cool techniques from different perspectives. And there's also free courses on there. There's 3 or 4 free courses that people can check out if they really want to. And there's paid courses, of course, there as well that are more advanced. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate that, of course. What about free time? I mean, you're not always coding, right? What are you doing? Riding horses? It is Kentucky after all.
Right. Yeah. When I'm not coding or working, I spend time with my wife, and I have 2 dogs. So we hang out, go on walks, and all that good stuff. Lately, past couple of years, reliving the younger days, doing some snowboarding. So we'll go do some snowboarding on there's a place not too far. It's a couple hour drive, so we'll go up there on the weekends sometimes. A little bit of skateboarding just to kind of keep the board sport, keep the balance through the off season, and then really just kind of playing some video games and watching TV, hanging out.
I was always impressed with folks that are able to balance themselves. I have no sense of balancing on boards of any kind, so really impressive.
Yeah. You'll get there. You can do it. You just got to start and then work your way up.
Yeah, but then if I fall, I'm out for the season.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and thanks for being here. And it's really good hearing from you and putting a voice and a face to those articles that you write that are great. And thanks for being on, and I hope to see you again here.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.